Hello, Tranvalo.
Hello, Lilu.
Hi.
It's really good to see you. It's been a long time.
Here we are again. I'm in Paris. You are in Sedona, I guess.
Just outside a few feet.
Oh, wonderful. We met in person. I remember in 2011, that video went around the world where I was sitting by your side on the red rocks with my cowboy hat, and we had
Yeah.
those wonderful conversation. And it's been a while. I haven't spoken with you, and a lot of people are wondering what is Dronvalo up to. So this is kind of a blessing for us to have some news from you and hear how good you looking. You're looking really good. How is
Wow.
life?
I'm happy. Everything is going really good. I'm old, but it doesn't matter. My body is like perfect. I don't have any problems or anything, so I'm happy.
Yeah, you're totally shining. A lot of light. I can
Yeah.
see a lot of light here. So I've heard of the School of Remembering and what you and the beautiful project that you're putting together, and that you're not so much now doing some seminars in person. But I would love, before we get into this topic, what are your latest discoveries? Like, just to get the full big picture of the kind of information we're talking about here.
Okay. A long time ago, in 1998, and right in there, when I published the first two books I did, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, Volume 1 and Volume 2, there was something in Volume 2 that I was alluding to another aspect of all of this work. It was page 361 to 365, Volume
Very
2.
precise. Yeah, I love your precision.
I am, I can't help it. And in there, we talked about something that is outside of the Merkaba, that is huge, it's much bigger. There's a big sphere out there that's about, roughly, depending on your height, about 60 feet across in diameter. And there is other forms that are there that I knew would someday be important in all of this. And I said so. I said, you don't have to read this few pages because it doesn't pertain to right now, but someday you're going to need to know this stuff. Well, that someday has arrived.
Nice.
And what I was waiting for was the world to catch up, because I knew that this information, when it was released, it needed the scientific world behind it. Otherwise, the world would think it was fantasy. They wouldn't believe it. Well, it's taken a long time, but they're now here. And in April I went to a scientific meeting with about 40 primary physicists and mathematicians, etc. In where was I? Albuquerque. And after I came out of that, I knew that they were definitely arriving. And so I got excited. I got so excited I couldn't even hardly stand it. I did a silly thing, I guess. I went home and I laid down in bed to think about it. This sounds silly, but I laid there for almost 2 weeks thinking about it because it was so huge. And finally I came out of it and I said, okay, I got it. Let's do it.
What was so exciting? The quality of the scientists there agreeing into your view of life, or what you perceive and what you know, or
No. As most people know that are listening to this, science always thought that the speed limit of the universe was the speed of light, 186,200 miles a second, a little under 200,000 kilometers a second. And that sounds fast. But it's all relative, everything is relative. And so fast is relative only to the size of whatever you're going through. Well, the universe, we now know, there's other people who have different sizes, but this is a conservative one, is 13.4 billion light years across. So that's how far light can travel in 1 year at that speed, and then 13.4 billion times that. And so if I was going to hold a conversation with you, and you were on the other side of the universe, I would say hi, and it would take 13.4 billion years to get there, and another 13.4 billion years for you to say hi back. So science has never believed when spirituality is saying, well, there's one living being in the universe and it's all connected and it's all, these things that we hear all the time in spirituality. Science is always going, yeah, sure, because they can't see how that's possible until now. And now they've learned something that is just amazing, really. We found out that electricity has more than one kind of electricity, or one. All the electricity that we studied went through a wire, and from there we knew that it made magnetic fields that were created from it, and we knew all kinds of things, and we created all kinds of laws from that. But there was only one person that was studying it not in a wire, and that was Tesla. And Tesla discovered something that we're just now beginning to understand. That when electricity is not in a wire, when it's in the universe and it's free to do whatever it wants to do, it can move from one end of the universe to the other in zero time. Not even a little tiny bit of time, like nanoseconds. It reaches and it doesn't just go from point A to point B. It reaches the whole universe, bigger than we can see, and all the way down into the microcosmos beyond what we could see there, all the way up, instantaneously through the whole thing. This changes everything. Absolutely everything that we know has been altered dramatically at this point. And I could go on for a long time about all this.
Tesla had many applications of this, no? Did he do time travel and all kind of things?
Well, I don't know Tesla's life perfectly. I was studying mostly what he was doing when he was in the Philadelphia experiment. And that's where they were trying to go interdimensionally with a giant ship and make it invisible. And at one point, they didn't like the government didn't like the direction that Tesla was going, and they just killed him and put somebody else in there. And so we lost. He was probably in terms of electricity, he was probably one of the smartest people that's ever lived. And but now what science is coming up with is so. We have discovered that there are anomalies I knew this even when I graduated in 1970. I knew then that physics was just full of holes. It was just so bad that I was embarrassed to even be part of that, because I knew that there was going to come a day when they're going to have to take everything they knew and throw it out and start over. That day's now coming. It's happening right now. And all the things that we've come up with, special theory of relativity, quantum physics, dark matter, black holes, the Big Bang Theory, all of that, it's all going to go. It's going to be everything that especially the public knows about science. It's all going to be thrown out, and it's going to be replaced with a much, much simpler understanding that will explain everything that we know in ways that we didn't know. But those physicists, what I was clear when I was working with them, they were going through the scientific method. They were slowly having to test each little thing to get where they're going. When I saw where they were at, I knew exactly what it meant, because I had a huge advantage over all of them. I knew Merkaba science. I knew what was behind, what was generating all these things. I could see the two just matched perfectly. And from there, I was able to understand how a human being could do what the big things were doing out there in physics. We could actually do the same thing. A single human being could connect with all life in existence simultaneously.
And we're not talking here in a near-death experience, because we often hear that when people go into a near-death experience, they're connected to all-knowing and to everything. Tell us more of the implications here.
Any human being driving riding a bicycle down the road could be connected to the entire universe in beta, not in any other form, not with any kind of drugs or any kind of anything. You can do this just through breathing. And so we're now putting this into a workshop. We've done 3 of them. We'll do one more in December. I think it's December 1 through 5, I think it is. And that one's going to be streamed out to the world. So if anybody wants to hear what it is in detail, they can. But they have to have had the they have to have the not necessary knowledge, or they won't be able to do it. We've already seen that.
But each time, like you know, when we spoke, it seems quite complicated, the technology to get there, and it's and you share it in your books and in the seminars. But isn't that getting a little bit lighter now and a little bit more approachable and easy to?
This is something that a human being, if they just sat down and studied for even 1 or 2 months, could actually make this leap into the whole universe. And it's the most exciting thing. I mean, when I was in studying the original, what was in those original first 2 books, that was in the late 60s, early 70s, and I was going through basically a revelation at that time, and I was just practically bubbling off the ground. I was so excited for years. And then that kind of faded away as all this became normal for me. But now I'm right back there again, because I can see that humankind is about to make a leap so huge that I don't even know where it's going to go, but that we are not going to be the same very, very soon. I don't think we'll even make it out of 2015 before we're going to be a transformation that's going to begin to occur. This is incredible. What it is, so you know, specifically, is what was originally discovered in 1908, and then was lost because they didn't know what the heck he was talking about, and then it was discovered in 1969. I forgot who the man's name was. He discovered it in 1969, and they quickly realized that it was Berkland who had discovered this in 1998. So they're now calling it Berkland currents. And Berkland currents move across vast distances. It doesn't even matter how far. The distance doesn't matter, and the time is always 0. And so that means that the whole universe right now is in communication with the whole universe. We aren't, because 13,000 years ago we got a bump on our head and we lost our ability to stay connected to all life everywhere. And so for 13,000 years we've been trying to get back to where we are, and we're now just coming back to where we were a long time ago. And we are now in position to be able to reconnect to all life everywhere. This is like, I don't know how it gets.
What is it like? Are you living it right now, John Vallo?
I have learned how to do it, but I can only do it for short times.
How long?
And so now, for maybe 15 minutes to 20 minutes.
But I guess what you're living and when you're in that space, it's not the 15 minutes. The time is not the same anymore.
It feels like a very, very long time. And there's one last detail that we need to know how to do, and I think we've just learned how to do it. We're pretty excited about the moment. All the rest of the details have been worked out since April to now. There's been lots of things that we had to understand and be able to live them and breathe them, and each one led us closer and closer to this whole complex. At this point, we have one last little detail to know. And that's what all science is trying to understand. But again, they don't have the advantage that we have. If I had all the drawings and graphics and everything, you could see why we've been able to make really big leaps that they're trying to figure out really fast. Because all this that's going on out there is all Merkaba science. And so why certain things are occurring and that what they're seeing, they're just trying to figure out why, and yet you put it in Merkaba science, you go, oh yeah, of course, this is why. Here's the sacred geometry behind it, and this is what is going on. It's obvious. And so...
so it's exciting because the science is finally meeting spirituality.
Yes, they are, and that is what I've been waiting for my whole life.
I know.
Is science and spirituality to come together, because then they can feed each other and they can go, both of them can go beyond both of their problems. This is big because, I mean, all the religions, they all know this, they all say this, but they can't do it. And they don't know how to actually make these transitions. And so this is going to help it doesn't even matter what your religious belief or your spiritual background is. This is going to help everyone. Even if you're an atheist, it's going to help you.
And it's going to help us precisely on Earth with the actions and with the day-to-day life as well? Or is this about living in another parallel universe with a different time?
No. This is living here.
Okay,
in
good.
a way where we can solve all of our problems so easily because we have the wisdom and the consciousness of the entire universe behind us to tell us how we can solve our problems. And so this is, I know this sounds absolutely insane and crazy. Because
no, I just want to hear more. I think all of us listening, we just want to hear the full thing.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's start with the sun and the earth because they're close to us, and we can see this in a mini level from there. We knew that the sun was about 93, 96 million miles away from us, depending on where we are at any one moment. And we knew it took about 8 minutes for light moving at 186,200 miles a second to get to here. We had to wait those 8 minutes. And then it took another 20 minutes for that light to get down to the surface of the Earth before we could actually know or feel the effect of a CME or solar flare or anything like this. Well, in the 1990s, when SOHO came in and they started really examining the sun, and we began to see the sun in ways that we were never able to see it before. I have a good friend who's an astrophysicist. I'm not going to say his name, but he was working at one of the major labs in the United States, and they realized that when there was not when there was a solar flare, but when there was a CME, a coronal mass ejection, it's usually at the North or South Pole, and a huge opening happens there, and massive amounts of matter and energy comes out, that they were able to receive that energy and the mass, which can't travel in those kind of speeds. They could receive this whole complex of energy at the sun instantaneously. And they couldn't explain it because the physics that they had wouldn't explain that. How is that possible? And but all they could do is mark, well, it's here instantly. Our instruments show it, and they can also see that there's lots of forms of bacteria that would also receive it. They would start going crazy instantaneously when the CME would open up. So they could see it not only with instruments, they could see it with living things, could be able to sense this impact on us at that one moment. Now what would happen right after that is this, and what we now know, it's an electrical current. It's a very strong, powerful electrical current coming from the sun to the earth in zero time. And then the earth would respond to that. And she would go, this impact would go inside of her, and then there would be, and it's actually tubes within tubes of what science knows. There's 3 tubes, one coming this way, one going out that way, another coming in this way. And then she would respond with a huge impasse of her own energy going out back to the sun. And when it would, that's when we would see the aurora borealis, or the aurora australis. North or South Pole, with all this beautiful plasma field would come out. And what's happening is the electrical current that she's sending back to the sun, it passes through water, which is the key to the whole thing. And when it does, the water superheats the electrical current, and so as it's coming out of the surface of the planet, there are there's matter that's in space around there, and that matter gets pulled to the electrical current, which then forms, which the superheat basically melts the matter and turns it into just to proton, electron, and neutrons that are not in molecules or anything at all. It's a neutron, proton, electron soup, and that. The electricity and the heat of that lights it up, and you see these beautiful lights coming out the north and south pole of the sun, and that is Birkeland currents and plasma fields, and so is almost every single thing we see in the universe. That's all it is. And every single thing that we could try to explain by making up ideas like dark matter and everything else like that, it can be explained simply by this one phenomena. And what it really is on a deeper level, it's cosmic tantra. It's the sun making love with the earth, and the earth making love with them. It's literally sexual energy going through there. That's what's clear when you look at the what's going on. If human beings were to do this, the only way they can do this is through tantra. They can't reach the kinds of levels of energy that are necessary to stream these kinds of things out of our bodies without an orgasm. And so sex is going to become very sacred. And when we understand what it really is, it's much more than just connecting two human beings together. It's connecting all life on all levels together, all at one time, including all conscious life that's above us. And so we're in for an amazing time here.
Yeah, you've been saying that for a while, that actually making love or creating planets in the universe.
I know. Now we can define it scientifically. It's a whole nother thing, because now you have the world beginning to understand on a physical level, in physics and mathematics, begin to understand how the universe exchanges energy with itself, which is all through sexual energy on all levels.
But is it because we know it that it's more accessible now, or because a certain number of people are aware of this, it's going to be more accessible? I mean,
there were people who knew this, but in my research around the world, there were only two groups in the world. And one was in South America, in the mountains again. I've talked about them, the Kogi, the Arawakos. They totally understand this. And also the Tibetan Buddhists. They also completely understand what we're talking about. If they're listening to me right now, they go, oh, the rest of the world is finally catching up with them. But
there's different ways to access it? You're teaching one way?
Three ways that we know, because that's what we could see. You can use the cosmos to understand what's possible.
To map it out, yeah.
Yeah, and there are three ways that the Birkeland currents move out of planets or stars or galaxies or huge bodies. It's a single stream running out of pure electricity, and that is one possibility. So if you see like a galaxy which looks like a Merkaba, because it is a Merkaba. We could see this in space everywhere. You see these single individuals coming out. But within a human being, if a human being was going to do this, within a human, we are both male and female. We're not just male or just female. That's called death. If you go into either one of them, you die. But we're a balance in between ourselves. So we have those polarities within us. And so we can, within ourselves, and with our own lovemaking within ourselves, we can find the balance within these things and stream Birkeland currents. But you can also do this with two people, a male and a female. And when that happens, that's sacred tantra. That's what all over the world they've been doing for years and years, for thousands of years. But with sacred tantra, you can link your energies together. And actually, it's more complex. We have a biomagnetic field around our body that's out about 4 feet. And these biomagnetic fields link together and pull you in together, just like you would if you put a magnet on a refrigerator. It links and you can't even pull it apart. It links you really close together. And at the moment of orgasm, I can't explain this all because it's really complicated. But the stream goes up about 30 feet above your head to another sphere you have there. And as it does, the two energy fields wrap around each other. They wrap like a coil going up. They get as close as they can, and also going down out to the bottom. And when they get to the top, if you could see the sacred geometry, around the top of our big sphere that's out at 60 feet or so is an icosahedron and a dodecahedron. An icosahedron is water. It is water. It's one of the elements. And a dodecahedron is chi, or prana. And the cap that is above it is just pure water. So the tube that goes up links into water. And as electricity moves up through there, it moves through water, superheats it, and you'll see plasma fields going out about 30 feet above and below a human being. This is the last step that we're trying to get the plasma. We can stream electricity. We're trying to get the plasma, and that requires an understanding also that the physics people don't understand. They have the right knowledge, but they don't know what it means. And these are toroidal fields that are around the body that this energy is moving through. And the toroidal fields, there's a man named Arthur Young, long time ago. He's getting old now, but he's still alive, I think. And he figured out that there are 7 regions on a toroidal field. If you'll take like a donut, that's a toroidal field. Mm-hmm. There's 7 regions on there that perfectly fit together. It's like if you took 7 pennies or 7 coins of the same size, put them on a table, and squeeze them up around them, you'll see that one's in the middle and 6 will be around them, and they'll be perfectly touching each other. That's exactly what this does. But they don't. But it turns as it goes. It keeps making these turns. Mm-hmm. And when you turn in a toroidal field, you're going interdimensional. You're slightly changing the world when you do that. So what we found is when you put electricity into Arthur Young's map, it goes in, and as it turns, it keeps amping that electricity up higher and higher and higher and higher. And when it comes back, instead of making the same circle, you now have a very high amount of potential in electricity there. And then at that moment is when the orgasm goes, and it takes that orgasm and it shifts it into this just huge amount of electricity. We're talking about like seeing lightning bolts go out of a person. And this is where Tesla was trying to go. He didn't quite figure it out. He didn't quite have he didn't have the cosmic knowledge that we have now, and he didn't have the supercomputers and things that we have now to be able to prove these things. But he was a smart guy, and he was almost there. He was almost figuring it out. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're figuring it out. And
so I guess it has some implications on the healing as well. It explains instantaneous healing, or some people with all the healers around the world, actually, you know.
Yes. I believe what I think is going to happen. I don't know this yet. I think that we will completely heal ourselves of everything. It will bring us back. I think we won't have to eat food or water. There's a lot of things, I think, because the prana alone, the levels of prana that we're bringing into our body in this can easily sustain us. We don't need anything. Because prana, I can show how prana can create every single molecule in existence. And so if we can get enough prana and live on prana, which this would do, we would become, humankind would become something different than what it is now, and a lot more intelligent, because we have a supercomputer brain of the universe feeding into us. Yeah. We would be very different, and maybe I won't make it, but maybe I will.
Yeah, you're looking good to make it.
We all do. And
so what is preventing this happening, or what is preventing this tipping point, or what is preventing the world to access all this, really? Because I guess there are some forces, or there's some other thing holding it down that is...
Okay, on governmental levels, and including the United States government all around the world, when they first discovered this in 1969 and began to understand that, by 1972, I would say, they knew that what this was going to be the biggest thing that humankind had ever even came close to, and they made it illegal. They also did that with alpha waves at the same time. They also understood that a study of the alpha waves makes us a superhuman being also. And actually you have to use both of those things, Birkeland currents and alpha waves, to be able to achieve this level of consciousness. But so what they did is they didn't actually pass a law. They just said everywhere, nobody can study this. Of course they did. The governments did, but they didn't want anybody else to, or universities or anywhere else to study this thing. And so they made it so that you just couldn't get funding. If you wanted to get funding, you couldn't get funding. And so for a long time, it just was impossible. But then the knowledge became so great. And it was so obvious to so many people that were in physics and mathematics and engineering and these kinds of things, that they all began to come together. And they all began to prove things that were way beyond what we know now. And they came together as a group, and it's called the Electric Universe. And so if you want to go onto the internet and connect with the Electric Universe, you can get all this mathematics and everything else and begin to understand what this is all about. And so this is this is going to happen. I don't.
Regardless, there's nothing holding back now.
Let me just tell you, like, one little detail.
Yeah.
This is just one detail in all of this that they have been able to find. And right now, we look at the stars and we think they're gas. We think our sun is a gas field of hydrogen, and that hydrogen molecules come together and form an atomic explosion and everything. And this is what we believe is true. We were solid believers this is true. It is not true. It is proven to be false. Well, now there's a man from Ohio State University. His name was, I don't have it right in front of me, it's Pierre-Marie Rotai, something like that. And this guy's pure genius. I put him on the same level, at least, of Einstein. But basically, he's just proven that all Einstein's theories are wrong. So, I mean, he went past him. And then lots of other scientists, too, because they were all building on each other, and they were all building on things that weren't true. And so now, he actually presented this in 2002, and the rest of the world thought he was insane. But it's too strong now. It's way too strong. He's now can show that the sun is a liquid, and he can prove it, and it's beyond proof, and which changes everything that we know about stars and everything we thought was true out there. We got to throw it all out and start over. But we couldn't really prove it until we put these two new satellites in November of 2013, and those two satellites are now measuring the Earth's magnetic field, because we believe that the magnetic field is going to reverse itself any minute. And
You've
so
been
they
saying this for a long time, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, now they're up there and they can see that this is really happening. But one of the things they did is they have special cameras that are aimed at the sun. And these are really amazing cameras, and they can see things that they never could see before. And so Pierre-Marie took this photograph, and he shows that when a solar flare goes off, you see the coming out of the sunspot, and it comes up into the air, but gravity pulls the mass back to the surface. If it was a gas, it would just pass through the surface of the sun. And now, so they now aim the camera down at the surface, and you see the solar flare coming up and going in, and it doesn't pass through it. It hits the surface, and it forms rings. Like if you were in a pond of calm water and you threw a rock in, you'd see these rings going out from there. And that is exactly what you saw, only they're millions of meters long, and they're huge. And so we now know that the sun is a liquid, and that it disproves all this Planck's theory stuff. And so we got to start over. And we have to understand how light can get from the sun to the earth instantly, and it can get the light from any star is reaching our star instantly, not in the light years that we thought it took to get there. There are other things going on in our universe, and so this is exciting. I mean, people. Especially when you realize that all of this information that's going on out there can be applied directly into an individual or two human beings, and to finish that thing, it's also three human beings. You can have, it can be, it's not a threesome like you would think. It's mother, father, child. It's a proton, electron, and a neutron. The two people that are doing the polarity through sexual energy, they wrap themselves around the neutral person. which is the child. This is how enlightenment and immortality first started, if you read my book. And the very first people that did that in Lemuria, they did it by having a baby. Now I understand how they did it. It's one of the three forms that you can do. You can either do it by yourself, you can do it with another person, or you can have a baby with another person, and that will also make you and the baby immortal.
I mean, this opens a lot of chapters, you know.
I mean, this is so cool. It's just